I have been sitting here staring at our roster, and honestly, I am feeling a mix of frustration and genuine anxiety about the direction we are heading. Something just came out regarding our offensive identity that could shake up everything for the Carolina Panthers this season. It is not just about the typical growing pains, but a specific position group that people are now flagging as a massive liability. The more details surface, the harder it is to ignore the potential ripple effects on our offense. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your name and city below. Let's break it down. The Carolina Panthers have a massive problem on their hands, as ESPN analyst Mike Clay has officially identified our running back room as the single biggest weakness on the entire roster. As Carolina Panthers fans, we know this team's identity has always been anchored by a bruising ground game and a suffocating defense. A formula that defined our most successful eras, from the D'Angelo Williams and Jonathon Stewart days to the electric playmaking of Cam Newton. Now, head coach Dave Canales finds himself in a precarious spot because our current backfield is a total question mark. Chuba Hubbard is back following a brutal 2025 campaign marred by injuries and inconsistent play that saw him lose his starting job. He is joined by Jonathon Brooks, our second-round hope, who has only seen the field 3 times in 2 seasons due to recurring ACL tears, and newcomer Trevor Etienne. The truth is, the lack of proven production is a massive concern for a team that relies on the run to protect Bryce Young. While we have finally addressed our offensive line and defensive line in recent years, this position group feels like a glaring oversight that could derail our entire offensive output. The fan base is understandably anxious because we have seen how quickly seasons crumble when the rushing attack lacks identity and reliability. The bottom line here is that our offense simply cannot function effectively if we are forced to put the game entirely on Bryce Young's shoulders. Yet the lack of a dependable workhorse makes that outcome look more likely than ever. It is a tough pill to swallow when you realize our identity as a run-first team is currently resting on unproven talent and injury recovery. But that is the reality we face as we prepare to keep pounding this upcoming season. And honestly, we have to talk about how we ended up in this precarious position where our backfield feels more like a question mark than a foundation. The front office spent years desperately patching up our offensive line and searching for wide receiver production, but in doing so, they essentially neglected the engine that makes a Dave Canales offense function. Look at the numbers, as Chuba Hubbard is coming off a brutal 2025 campaign marred by injuries and a plummeting efficiency rate that saw him lose significant snaps to Rico Dowdle. When you pair that with Jonathon Brooks, who has only managed 3 appearances in 2 years due to those devastating back-to-back ACL tears, the lack of reliability becomes glaring. Historically, we have leaned on duos like D'Angelo Williams and Jonathon Stewart to carry this franchise to the postseason, but hoping for that kind of magic from an unproven, injury-prone group is a dangerous gamble. Behind closed doors, Coach Canales and the front office are likely terrified that the lack of a ground game will force Bryce Young into high-volume passing situations he is not yet equipped to handle. They are betting on potential because they have no other choice, yet the reality is that a running game relying entirely on hope is rarely a recipe for sustained success in the NFL. We have seen this lack of depth derail seasons before, and relying on a 4th-round pick like Trevor Etienne to suddenly stabilize our identity feels like a bridge too far. If the coaching staff cannot find a way to manufacture yards on the ground, our defense will be overworked and our quarterback will be exposed every single Sunday, which is a terrifying prospect for us as Carolina Panthers fans. The reality is that our identity is currently facing a true crisis of confidence as we head into this crucial campaign. We have built a reputable offensive line and finally added some necessary reinforcements to the trenches, but the backfield remains a glaring, unaddressed void. If we cannot establish a ground game, the entire offensive philosophy installed by head coach Dave Canales falls apart, putting an unsustainable burden on Bryce Young to carry the load entirely through the air. This shift forces our hand, stripping away the comfort of a ball control attack and turning us into a one-dimensional unit that defenses will exploit every single Sunday. With Chuba Hubbard coming off an injury-riddled year and Jonathon Brooks still fighting to prove he can stay healthy after his ACL issues, we lack the stability required for a run-first squad. This lack of reliability hits hard during high-stakes divisional matchups against the New Orleans Saints, now led by Kellen Moore, and the Atlanta Falcons under Kevin Stefanski, who will undoubtedly load the box to stifle our limited options. Without a premier back to keep those linebackers honest, our path to a playoff spot becomes exponentially steeper, leaving us vulnerable in a crowded NFC South. We need to find an answer fast, because hoping for production from an unproven, injury-prone group is not a sustainable strategy for a team trying to climb out of the basement. The bottom line here is that our postseason aspirations are tethered to a running game that currently lacks a heartbeat, and if that does not change, our ceiling will remain dangerously low. As Carolina Panthers fans, we deserve a more balanced attack to complement our emerging defense, but right now, we are staring down the barrel of a long, frustrating season if we cannot secure the football on the ground. Keep pounding. The Panthers have a historical blueprint for success built on defensive dominance and a punishing run game, so the upside of banking on youth like Jonathon Brooks and Trevor Etienne is clear. If these young backs stay healthy and hit their ceiling, we possess a high upside committee that can keep chains moving and shorten games for our defense, effectively mirroring the physical identity that defined our best squads. However, the massive downside is that this approach relies entirely on unproven talent returning from significant injury setbacks. If Brooks cannot handle a full workload or Hubbard struggles to regain his form, we are left without a reliable ground attack, which forces Bryce Young to carry an unreasonable burden. Media pundits and analysts around the league are rightfully skeptical, with many like ESPN's Mike Clay identifying our backfield as the team's glaring Achilles heel. Other front offices view our uncertainty at running back as a potential failure to provide our young quarterback with the balanced foundation he desperately needs to develop in Dave Canales' system. And I'll be real with you, I am genuinely concerned about this specific direction. While the front office has done a fantastic job fixing the offensive line, ignoring the volatility of this running back room feels like a gamble that could derail our entire season. We cannot expect to compete if we are one-dimensional, and relying on potential rather than proven production is a dangerous way to navigate a league as unforgiving as this one. If we do not see immediate returns from our rookies, the pressure on the coaching staff will skyrocket faster than any of us want to admit. We have to hope these guys prove the doubters wrong, but as of right now, our identity remains a massive question mark that keeps me up at night. Keep pounding. The bottom line here is that the direction of this franchise depends entirely on whether Dave Canales can maximize a roster with a glaring void at running back. For the last few years, we have watched the front office patiently rebuild the trenches and find reliable receivers, but this lingering uncertainty in the backfield jeopardizes our identity. If we cannot establish the run, we are essentially forcing Bryce Young into a high-volume passing role that he is not currently equipped to carry. As Carolina Panthers fans, we should feel anxious about the upcoming season because the history of this team proves that we only thrive when we can control the clock and play physical football. Without a clear answer at tailback, we are relying on the health of Jonathon Brooks and the development of Trevor Etienne, which is a massive gamble for a team that desperately needs stability to compete in a tough division. This lack of a proven ground game could ultimately cap our ceiling and turn promising defensive stands into wasted efforts. Think about it this way, if we fall behind early because the offense lacks balance, our defense will eventually wear down, negating the very reinforcements we spent the offseason acquiring. We are at a critical juncture where the scheme must prove it can overcome a lack of star power in the backfield, or we will be looking at another long year of trying to figure out our offensive identity. Do you believe Jonathon Brooks can overcome his injury history to become the bell cow back this offense needs to survive the season? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Keep pounding. I'll see you in the next one.